Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today to join our discussion about how to support your classroom activities around diversity, inclusion, equity, and human rights with your NewsBank resources. My name is Katherine Bergerson. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at NewsBank, and I'll be joined today by my colleague, Matt Stewicki. Just to let you know as we get started, the session is being recorded. We'll send out a recording of this session following today's event. And also all of our contact information and the engagement strategies that we shared today are in the handout section. You may see a little gray bar that says handouts, or it might be an icon on the left side of your screen. You can download that at any time. And just quickly to share our agenda with you is we'll start with an overview of these rich collections, what they include, and what really makes Hispanic life in America and Black life in America unique. We'll show you how to search in order to really pinpoint the most relevant information to your area of interest. And we'll share ideas of how to build visibility. And we even have some ready-to-use ideas that you can walk away with at the end of the session. So we do have time for questions and answers, so we'll pause throughout the presentation. You will either see a question icon or chat box. Just type them in there and we'll do our best to get to all of them. If we run short on time, we commit to getting back to you in the very near future. Just a brief background on NewsBank. We are a leading news and information provider to schools, research institutions, and libraries all around the world. We have been in business for 51 years. I'm so proud to say that. And we aggregate news sources from all around the world. So we're bringing you, your teachers, your students, credible, vetted information that are all available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So to take a walk through today's resources, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Matt Stewicki, who is the Vice President of Sales for K12 and Community Colleges. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Catherine, and thanks. Appreciate the generous introduction, and I want to thank everyone for attending today. If you're familiar with some, hopefully you are familiar, I should say, with some of the NewsBank resources like Access World News and America's Historical Newspapers, which are part of our Core 4 collection. We're now going to get into what we call our multicultural collections. In this case, it's Black Life in America and Hispanic Life in America. They're geared towards supporting African American, Hispanic American studies. They do get into diversity, equity, and so on. And again, any of you that are familiar with our current resources, these are add-on to those two previous collections I mentioned, Access World News and Historical Newspapers. So without further ado, let's get into it. I will stop sharing myself so I have less bandwidth here. And let me show my screen, and hopefully you do see the landing page for Black Life in America.
We do, yes.
Okay, great. So Black Life in America, this database is just a little bit different than our Access World News and America's Historical Newspapers, where what we've done is we've met with academic people, historians, curriculum people to find out what is it that they're looking for around African American studies and so on. And what we did is instead of just loading a bunch of newspapers, magazines, and media information, we built algorithms that would then search our entire vault of information. And when I say our entire vault of information, I'm talking about information, historical information that goes all the way back to the 1700s, all the way through to information today. And by doing that, what we're able to do is pull forward information from, number one, over 200 countries and territories around the world. So it provides you with hyper-local information, with regional, national, and international information around these areas of study. Additionally, and let's start digging in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit search here instead of putting in a keyword term. As you can see here, just like the other two databases, we can keyword search anything. But I'm just going to hit search just so I can show you the depth and breadth of the information that you're getting here. By doing this, what I'm doing is I'm pulling up and I'll be able to show you some information. So first off, this database has almost 106 million documents in it, specifically geared towards African American studies. Additionally, if I go down here and I click on source name and I click on more options, what you'll see is that this is pulling information from over 20,000 sources from around the world. A year ago, we were at 19,000. So by rerunning these algorithms and updating this every single day, we are literally pulling in new sources because the algorithms are matching information in sources that were not there previously. Okay. Now, if I close this and I scroll to the top, another key database information on this, I should say, is that we're not just pulling historical information, we're pulling information from even tomorrow. Note here that this is a December 1 date from our magazine, American Civil War. What happens is when the information is ready to go to print, we actually get that information in advance. So you're going to get this information prior to it going to print, okay? Like our other databases, one of the key to this database and to Hispanic American Life are the filters down the sidebar, okay? That's what allows you to get to key information. So I'm going to quickly run through these filters on how you use them. If you're familiar with Access World News, you're already familiar with this. By default, when you do a keyword search, we always default to the newest. You can resort your data best match or oldest. You have multiple date filters that will allow you to key in on the information you're looking for based on those requirements. So for example, I've got a slide bar, and maybe the requirement for my project is I only want information from 2000 forward. I can use that slide bar, hit apply. That will remove that older content and bring back just the results from 2000 forward. I can put in my own ad hoc set of dates. So I could put in today, for example. I could say past 6 months. I could do a range of years. So you can do your own ad hoc set of dates. Scroll down and I'll go to year here. So by clicking more options now, this is the third of the date filters. I can look at my results by year. So if I see something that spikes out, like 2020, for example, I can click on 2020 and hit apply. And now I can look at my results just for 2020. And you'll note how that changed my slide bar. And I see here in June of 2020, I have a big spike, much higher than any of the other months. So I could key in just on that 1 month and say what happened during that month, okay? So it's just ways to really key in on information. If you enter something by mistake, filters are always at the top, and filters always show with the coinciding filter type. So I'll close that, and that'll bring me back to those prior settings. I've got source type. So it's not just newspapers. We've got audio, professional blogs, college and university newspapers, journals and magazines, newsletter, newspaper, newswire, transcripts, video, web-only content. You can filter to any one by clicking on it. And again, more options would allow me to click in multiples. I had already shown you the source name, but what this would allow you to do is if I wanted to key in on just a specific title, what I can do is I can start typing here, for example, And if I only wanted to go to the Chicago Defender, okay, I could click in that one title, hit apply, and now I've only got the Chicago Defender, and I get rid of all that other content. And again, if I enter something by mistake, simply X out, and I'm back to the previous settings. So you can go to any source title. You've got a location filter. Again, we're pulling content from over 200 countries and territories around the world. So that gives me the ability to filter by continent, country, region, state, province, or city. So example is if I only wanted to look at information from, for example, maybe I want New York. I can simply type in new, put a checkbox in New York, and that's going to bring me just to that information from New York. Now from there, just to give you a good idea, I go back here and I click options again, and we're pulling information from from 230 cities around New York. So I can, again, get very, very local. I only want that information from Batavia. Okay, so it allows you to get to the very local, to state, to regional, to national, to international. Scroll down here, and you'll see we have multiple languages. So when I click more options, we've got information from 19 different languages. Of course, the bulk of it is in English, but there is a lot of Spanish and French and Portuguese and so on. So you could key in on any one language. Additionally, if you put a search up here in a specific language, your results would come back just in that language. You've got your eras in history that you can hone in on. And you'll note when I do this, because I've got 20th century, I've only got those two eras. And we'll come back and look at that again when I get into the timeline. And then I've got my presidential eras that I can key in on. So all these filters are ways where you can filter and get down to the nitty gritty. What exactly are you looking for when you do a keyword search? I'm going to click NewsBank. And the next thing I want to show you is really what we call the timeline, or what I call the pathway to discovery. You'll note that this timeline, just like we have in the historical newspapers, highlights every major era from 1700s to present, but from an African-American perspective. And if I look at any one of these, you'll see we've got specific categories. And then underneath of each of those categories, you will see, in this case, the subcategories, the notable people during this era. If I go to Civil War, it's the same idea, okay? The subcategories around military in this case, or around notable people. So if I wanted to look at information for Frederick Douglass, I can simply click. That'll bring up that information. And now you'll see here, I've got historical newspapers around Frederick Douglass, right? From 1861 to 1865. If I click on this very first one, you'll see this is from the Alexandria Gazette, May 2, 1863. It's highlighting the search terms, okay? But as I mentioned earlier, we're not loading the whole newspaper. I've only got certain pages of the newspaper loaded. And then I've got information or tools for the user. So you can search for more information. Where did this result come from? I can create my citation and export to any one of these tools, EasyBib, RefWorks, or Noodle Tools. There's your MLA 9 citation. I can email this to someone who I want to send it to from me. I can use the clip function to, for example, clip out a portion of this article, print it, download it, or save it to Google. I can print it again, the full page or the clip, download it, save to an internal folder. I've got the option with this Doro link. So if I copy this link, I could put it in a lesson plan. I could email it to a teacher, a parent, a faculty member. And when they click on it, it will always open to this article. If you use Google Classroom, this button looks familiar. I could drop this down into an assignment. We also integrate with Canvas, with Schoology, and a number of other different tools. And then again, I could jump to a different page. My breadcrumbs right here to go right back to where I was. So if I click here, that's going to bring me right back to where I was in the timeline. And you'll note, if I go to present day and I click on activist movements, and maybe I want defund the police because we're hearing a lot about that in the news again. That will run that search. And again, I can modify this search. Okay. So maybe I want more current information. I can simply get rid of that date, hit search again, and it brings me those results. If I click on this very first one, you'll note it's a full text article because I've got current information. And again, tools for the user. Increase the text size, create that citation, the email function, the print function, and include the citation when you print, the download that's saved in my folder, the Doro link to this article, my Google Classroom, and every full text article has a read along. So by evoking that read along, it will highlight the words, read right along with it. Okay, I realize you can't hear it, but you get the general idea. And then again, I can go right back to my results and click NewsBank to go back to where I was. Okay. Now, one other item I'll point out here. If there's something you're looking for within any one of these entries, so example, Jim Crow, arts and literature, maybe there's something you're studying and you don't find it in here. If you let us know what that is, we will look for it. We'll see if we have the content. Does it make sense to add it? And if so, we'll then add it. An example of that is this Fisk Jubilee Singers. This actually was, we were added this at the request of a school district out of Texas. This was something they were studying, so they asked if we could add it. We had the content and we did so. And you'll also note, I've got the same exact filters we reviewed right down the sidebar to further filter my data if the set of results I get are larger than what I want. That is really Black Life in America. It's just that easy to use. I'll open it up for some questions before I get into the Hispanic Life in America.
Sure, thank you. We do have a question about adding topics. How do they make that request?
Okay, so if you want to add a topic, you can have multiple ways of doing it. Number one, you've got this share feedback button. If you click that, okay, you can begin a survey and share that feedback with us, and we'll get it that way. Second way to get that topic made is if you email your sales rep or customer service rep with your request. We'll get it that way. We'll probably follow up with you either way we get it just to clarify exactly what you're looking for. And then that'll go up to our editors, and they'll begin the search to see, can we get that request taken care of for you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, on to Hispanic Life in America.
All right, great. So if I click over to Hispanic Life in America, you'll see right here, it's that same look and feel. And I'm going to hit search again, but we did the exact same thing here as we did with Black Life in America, where we built algorithms to search our entire vault of information to pull forward the information based at the article level, as opposed to adding just full newspapers, magazines, and so on. This database has over 52 million results. And if I click on source type down here, source name rather down here, and I click that more options tab, that's going to give me an update on how many actual sources we're pulling from within this database. And as you'll see here, it's over 18,000. Okay. You'll note the exact same filters are down the sidebar. So once you learn how to use one database within the NewsBank Core 4, you know how to use them all and apply the exact same filters. So we've got the exact same filters that we can use. With Hispanic Life in America, we've got over 700 Spanish language options, or I should say sources. And again, it's over 200 countries and territories. Just like Black Life in America, we've got the timeline, but from a Hispanic American perspective, okay? One of the ones I like to click on right here is Historic Reflections. You'll also find this in Black Life in America. We've only got data that goes back to the 1700s, unfortunately, but things occurred around these specific areas of study prior to that. So, example is, if I wanted to get information on Ponce de Leon, I could click there. And what that will do is that will actually load information on Ponce de Leon from when he came over and explored Florida. So here, the history of America, you can see here, I've got this information on Ponce de Leon. Now, this is a great example on how I would use that clip function, because I only want that information on Ponce de Leon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that article, okay, and then I can print it, download it, or save it to Google. And I'm just going to download it, and you'll see here I can include that citation. So by doing that, what that's going to do is that's going to clip that portion of this article off the page for me and allow me to view it. So you'll see here I've got a nice clean PDF. I've got the citation underneath, and now I can print it out, and I've got exactly what I need. Okay, so just a great way to use that. Again, my breadcrumbs right across the top, so I can go right back to where I was. Okay. Maybe we can go into Zoot Suits and West Side Story. So again, another way to use this database, comparing the past to the present. So if I click on West Side Story, of course, that was a great classical musical from back in the 1960s, one of my favorites. They did a remake. So I can now compare what happened in the 60s with that Academy Award winner, and I can remove this data, this date field, and research and get information now on the remake and what happened in the remake of West Side Story. So again, just a great way to get information and bring information in. And again, just like Black Life in America, we're updating this on a regular basis. So if I go to notable people, for example, and here we go, the Girl Scout CEO and a rocket scientist, right? Sylvia Acevedo. So, talk about great success stories and so on. Here's one way to do that. So you can really gather and get information any way you want, okay? And I noticed everything slowed down on me a little bit here, and I do apologize for that. Doesn't want to run. So last I'll show you real quick is all of our databases have this learn about this database. And if you click that, that will give you more information on the database, the categories, and so on. And in Hispanic Life America, we also have that learn database in Spanish to help on that side of things. I'll stop here since this has decided not to run on me. We ran into a little kink. And I'll ask, are there any questions at this point on Hispanic Life in America or Black Life in America?
Sure. Yes, let's pause. Thank you very much. And again, to those in the audience, please feel free to type those questions in. You should see a little gray bar or a question icon. You can just click there and enter them. We do have a question about editorials and opinions. Is there a way to filter those so that it's obvious?
Okay, so if you wanted to search for specific items, okay, or areas, I should say, what you would need to do is click on the advanced search or more search options, which then brings you to this screen. Now, from there, I can put in a search term, but you'll note here what it does, it allows me to tell the database basically, where do I want to search for that information? Is it in the headline? Okay. Is it in the author byline that I'm looking for? So you can pick your specific areas where you want to search within this. Now, when you do this, though, I will give you warning, because these two databases are very strong with the historical information. So they have a lot of image edition newspapers and so on. Now, when you tell the database you want to search, for example, in a headline or in a specific area, okay, and I put in a term, what it's going to do is it can only look in full text articles now, because those are the only type of sources that allow us to determine headline from byline, from opinion pieces, and so on, okay? So you will lose all of the older data by doing that quite often, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for that. I don't see any other questions.
Great. Well, I thank everyone for their time, and on that note, I'll turn it back over.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, and if you think of questions, we can pause again. But now that we know more about these fantastic resources, we really want to help you get them into the hands of your teachers and your students. So we have some top 5 engagement strategies, and many of these are ready to use. Again, you can download them in the handout section and start using them right away. So our first is to host a hands-on training. Much like Matt just did for us, we will send you a link to this presentation, or you can host your own, or gather up a group and of faculty members, and Matt's team will be happy to host a specialized training for your school or classrooms. We often find that can be very, very beneficial. Also, number 2 is build up your online web presence. The more places you can add links, the more likely, of course, it is that people will discover it. So if you do perhaps a featured resource of the month, I know a lot of school libraries did Hispanic Life in America during Hispanic Heritage Month, which is wrapping up this week, in advance of your building programs for Black History Month. In February, you might want to do the Black Life in America featured as a resource then. And so again, we have graphics that you can use and write-ups that you just can pop right on in. Number 3, NewsBank, as Matt mentioned, integrates with Discovery Services and learning management systems like Blackboard and Canvas. We have a website that is packed with videos and PDFs with instructions on how you can add those integrations in. So, again, if you're featuring a particular book or an art exhibit, pull an article and some interesting facts. And a lot of teachers tell us that they can use the database to maybe compare and contrast an issue over time, such as immigration. And it's a great way to include that historical information that often is fascinating and really grabs people's attention and shows how the past informs the present. So number 4 is newsletters and social media. We have write-ups that are ready to pop right in and graphics that you can put in your e-newsletters, whether they're internal or external to parents and community. Here you can see some examples from social media of how others are using these write-ups. And they're very brief, and again, I kind of call them newsletter nuggets, but it's a great way to get people into the database and using it. Number 5, video views. Videos are the number 1 way to engage, and we have brief videos. They're each less than 2 minutes for giving an overview of Hispanic life in America and Black life in America. They're, have key features and just a quick introduction of how to get into the resource and use it. So we encourage you, please feel free to download them, share them on your own YouTube page. If you have a niche academy library, we encourage you, please use and share. One last thing I'd like to show you is our Marketing Resource Center. So those are my top 5 favorite engagement strategies, but we have much more in a Marketing Resource Center for schools. There's bookmarks you can print out, those search tips, more social media ideas. So I really encourage you to, again, if you download this presentation, there's a link right to the Resource Center and all of the things that we talked about, so you don't have to hunt and peck around on the website. So are there any other questions we can get to? Let's see. Oh, thank you very much. We have just a nice comment. I'd love to see these videos on Twitter and Facebook so we can share to our patrons. We will absolutely do that. That's a great idea. Thank you. Good suggestion. And we'll send them to you too, and you can create posts as well. Well, if there are any other questions or we can help, if you think of something after this session, please don't hesitate to reach out. Matt and I will be back in the next few weeks talking about how the past informs the present using America's historical newspapers, and in early November, get to know Research Rocket, which is our beginning research tool. In the follow-up email that you'll get, there'll be links to those webinars that you can register right there. If you feel like you have colleagues that can benefit, or again, complimentary customized training, the Resource Center, the links to the LMS integrations, they're all here in the presentation today. I thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. As you leave, there'll be a quick survey. Please let us know how we can improve in the future, and we hope to see you at our upcoming sessions. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.